155. Today we are going to talk for a very brief time, because we have to stop at 5 minutes to the hour, about patterns and how distinguishing patterns in our life. I can't see the title right now, so I'm just going to make it up. Distinguishing titles in life, and how we can either play with them or we can be undermined by them. So I am Deborah Henson-Conant, also known as Deborah Henson-Conant, also known as DHC. I'm a composer and a performer, and I have an online school where I teach harpists how to express themselves with music. And I am here, as almost always on Fridays, with Kathleen Wiley, a Jungian psychoanalyst, harpist as well, and also the creator and founder of the Inner Divine Spirit and the circle, which I forgot the name of, Kathleen. It is called what?
It is an embodiment circle.
Yes. Okay, great. And we both play the harp. And so we call this Jung at Harp. And every week we meet to talk about questions that we're interested in. We don't come with answers. We come with the power of conversation and the place of conversation to meet and talk about these things. Now, I'm just about to start 3 months of talking about the power of pattern in music in my academy. And so I asked if we could talk about the power of pattern in all its ways. So we were looking at the patterns within our lives, how they support us and how they can undermine us. So would you like to sort of give a sense? So one of the things that really interests me about patterns in music is that often people think that when you improvise, you're sitting down and you're making up everything, when in fact, there are many patterns that you are bringing into your body and bringing into the music. And those patterns have now become so ingrained, because they're supportive patterns, that you can be listening to the other person you're playing with, you can be listening to yourself, you can actually be present. However, there are often other patterns at play in our head that are pushing us down, patterns of thought that are making it difficult to be present. And so there's this interplay between those patterns. Could you shed any light on that, Ms. Kathleen?
Well, we're going to find out, right? One of the things we were talking about, we're talking about what is a pattern, and I always love going to the dictionary. And what struck me from the dictionary is that, a pattern is a regular or intelligible form, that it gives a regular or intelligible form to something. And I love that intelligible, but, it means comprehensible, accessible, understandable. And so that when we can recognize our patterns of how we operate, or we recognize the patterns in a piece of music, or we recognize the patterns of standard patterns of accompaniment, then there's something that we can connect to. There's something that suddenly we can relate to because we understand it. It like clicks in place for us. And so that's part of what I've been experiencing with music. And I'm thinking about how when I practice doing inversions, and that then when I'm playing a piece of music, I can suddenly I just go to inversion automatically. It's not that I think I'm going to do it, but I may just put an inversion in the left hand at a certain point because the pattern is there and I'm consciously connected to it. There's an understanding of how it will fit with the melody harmonically because I've worked with the pattern.
And can I just tell people what an inversion is?
Sure.
So an inversion, so a chord has a shape like this. It can have many different shapes, but this shape, it's 3 notes. I mean, it can be more than 3 notes, but let's just say a 3-note chord would have those 3 notes. But if I play it here, they have numbers 1, 3, 5. If I move it up 3, 5, 1, the shape is slightly different of my hand. And then if I move it up here, it's even more different. I mean, the space, and you can see that the space is all equal in this one. In this one, there's more space here than here. And in this one, that space is here. So in this one, the space is up above. Now it's in between these 2 fingers. Now that space is in between those 2 fingers. And one of the things that's really beautiful about the harp is that in every single key, you're going to have the same shape. So whether you, I should play this. So you've got the same chord. Yeah, sorry. There is a sound here too. This is what it sounds like, and I can do that in, and you can get more complicated. But there's just still inversions, and once you learn those shapes, what Kathleen is talking about is that at first you're like, oh my God, I have to learn this and I got to put it in and wait, I'm supposed to put in an inversion. But once it becomes ingrained as a pattern, you can actually just go to one of those because it's easier. Your laziness factor, which I think is the most brilliant creative factor of all, the laziness factor can come in once you know those patterns. Then they are supporting you rather than something that you're trying to understand. And I love this moment. Oh, I totally took over. Well, I've been doing that all morning. I love that moment. So there's a situation where you can distinguish patterns, or then when you're trying to put them in. And I love that moment when people are like, oh, that's just a this. That's my favorite pattern moment. Okay, go back wherever you were.
Well, when you were showing the inversions on the harp, I thought about how it is so very true. If, that first position is the root position, right? The one is the
right.
root, it's at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And how when we are rooted in our own nature, we're rooted in our own how the innate patterns are fleshed out specific to us, then we can move forward. I was imagining you're moving up the harp with the inversions. We can move forward in a way that we still are connected to our roots. That if we know what roots me and me, things as simple as having time in the mornings when I get up, that I can wake up leisurely, that I can have meditation, journal, reflection time, or I can do gentle stretches or qigong, that's part of the root chord for me that gets done in the early morning hours. And if I have a 5 a.m. flight at the airport, I'm probably not going to do that in the same way, but I build in time then when I get wherever I'm traveling to do those kinds of, to do the stretches.
Interesting. So you're you're doing your.
I'm in an inverted position, but I'm still connected to the root. The root is still
Right.
there. We don't lose the root of our own way of being in the world, our own patterns. And part of what's harmful, psychically and emotionally, mentally, and just in our life, is when we end up trying to force ourselves, or we get caught in patterns that disconnect us from our roots, because we've learned patterns of moving in the world that work for someone else and we think they should work for us. And then when they don't, we think there's something wrong with us, when it's really about identifying how is it I work and how do I move with that in this situation, not I should be moving the way they move in this situation.
So here's what I'm hearing. A couple of things. First of all, it's reminding me that when I was a little kid and I was first learning how to play the piano, and I first learned about chords, I found it easier to, and I learned that there were patterns of, like, there's the 1, the 5, and the 4 chord, as well as the one, the other numbers get used and reused in music in ways that can get confusing. But I remember that I always put every chord in the same position. For me, that was very grounding. So I would play like I would play, if you can see all of them. And then I learned how to make those chords more, I learned how to make them a little bit more interesting. But they were still in exactly the same position. And that allowed me to ground in the two elements that were important to me, which was the shape of the chords and exactly the physical movement. But then as I got more, now I'm playing the same progression, But as I got more, it wasn't that as I got more sophisticated, but I just got more comfortable, and I got lazy one day, and I think I was going, I forgot to move my right hand. And so I played that chord, and I was like, whoa, that's more beautiful. So instead of, well, that's beautiful too, but then I went, my right hand stayed the same, my left hand moved. I started being like, wait a second, there's other kinds of patterns here, and there's more. And so my playing became more sophisticated through time by me actually allowing the patterns to shift based on hearing, on the beauty, and at first I was really scared because how can I find that again? Oh, it's this beautiful thing, like a record. But then I began to see those patterns.
Right.
And then but I noticed that when I teach, I'm always kind of trying to find out, okay, what are people want to play the sound that I'm playing now, but I know that I went through this long thing. And through that long thing, the patterns were I started to be able to see that this and this, to me, it's the same thing.
I'm just thinking about how beautiful that you had that space to play. Because, when we were talking about the titles, I think our official title was Recognizing Patterns and Learning to Play with Them.
Right.
And how critical play is. And, the psychoanalyst Winnicott talked about this, how important play is to the child and the development of a sense of self, and how important it is for us as adults to play with our own energies so that we can become more whole. We can live into different aspects of ourselves, and with the heart become more self-expressive. And, that quality of play. And so it's occurring to me that part of what I know is helpful in the analytic space when I'm sitting with an analysan is an attitude of playfulness. And when I can sit with my heart with an attitude of playfulness instead of this serious, like I got it right, I got to learn it this way, is a totally different experience, And so the patterns that you teach and are getting ready to teach this quarter are a way of, this is what I'm going to say, it's a way of helping someone relax in order to play, because it gives them something to focus on instead of that is accessible. We've got to give that head, that monkey mind, something to focus on that's going to be helpful.
It's interesting because I hear the same thing over and over again. And I've been hearing it in the 5-day challenge. So we're in the middle of the blues challenge. And for anyone who wants to take part in those things, you can just go to hipharp.com. That's hip as in cool, harp as in the instrument. We don't have a thing to pull up right here. I mean, I could, but and you can join if you play the harp, and you can also crash it if you don't play the harp. You can jump in. But I just keep hearing the same thing over and over again in all my teaching, that when people have a breakthrough, they say the same thing. I don't have to think about it. And what they mean is I don't have to think about the technical thing. And what I can do is be present. I can enjoy what I'm doing. I can be there. And one of the things that I noticed that was, so for me as a kid, and I remember the whole journey because there were these very few lessons that I had. And when I was taught, how it works, the first one was, here's these 3 shapes on a ukulele and here's how they work. And what was really meaningful in my life right then that I can go back and look at that I don't have now is, as far as I was concerned, I didn't need to know anything else. That was enough. There was a very, very deep feeling. This is enough. It's not that I don't want to learn more. I didn't need to. Right. I could do anything with those 3 chords.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like, well, and I have to learn that picking pattern and blah, blah, blah. It didn't matter. And that, to me, there's something so magical and powerful about that sense. And it made me think that I don't know anything about this, that there's a word in Hebrew, dayenu, and I've heard people sing songs about it. And my understanding, and if I'm wrong in this moment, I don't care, because I just want to sit in it, is that it means it's enough. It's enough. That gratefulness of being able to enjoy the pattern that you have as enough. And then, of course, you can learn more. I think what happens sometimes is, as our ear becomes more sophisticated, we are not satisfied with what we can do.
Yeah, how often we judge ourselves as not being enough. When I talk about a self-destructive pattern that has a negative archetypal current, that I'm not enough. And so it goes into the music too,
Right.
doesn't it?
Right.
And so to begin to really cultivate this is enough. One of the things that really has been helping me the last 2 or 3 weeks is the performance that I did with John at the house concert. When I listen to it, it's just beautiful. My playing is beautiful. And it's like all of those, quote, wrong notes or the bumbling fingers that I stood out for me while I was playing at the concert, they just aren't there. I mean, it's like the music is there. And again, it's not perfect. And but the music is there, the heart is there, the essence. We often come back to the pneumon, the thing in and of itself, the
Right.
essence is there. And I think that recognizing our patterns and playing with them actually is a way to be able to focus on the essence. It's like, what matters most? What's the heart? My heart, the music came through.
Wow.
Even though maybe my fingers bumbled, maybe there were some, quote, wrong notes, but they paled in comparison to the essence.
Yeah, I'm hearing something so different. And you're saying, even though there were wrong notes, and I'm realizing that the wrong notes are such like, they came through because you had the harp. They came through because you touched the instrument. They came through because you stayed there and you kept playing. They came through because you didn't stop. And I was just thinking of someone from a different culture listening to what you said a minute ago. Even though they're wrong notes, and I was imagining them thinking, what does that even have to do with playing with what you were doing? Which is, I love that I had that thought. That I could have that thought with everything that I'm doing. If we can cultivate that thought of that enoughness. So I know that we need to get off in 1 minute, and this is such a powerful conversation that I am looking forward to having. And I know we won't be together again until the middle of August. So I just want to say, for any harpists, come have that conversation with me in Hip Harp Academy, because that's the conversation we're going to be having for the next, almost 3 months, through to the end of September. And I thought I had one thing that I could pull up here. You can come to a webinar that I'm going to be giving, actually, and I think I can pull it up here. Maybe I can't. I don't know. Power of pattern. Yeah, I'm going to pull it down to the bottom. So I'll just put that on the page so you can link to it. You can go to hipharp.com and you can find that as well. Let me pull these down while I say goodbye. So sorry that I kind of have to rush off today, but we do. But this is the conversation that I want to be having. The power of pattern. Where is it? What does it allow us? What does it open up? And also, what are the patterns that are in play that we can distinguish, that we're tripping over, that we can start to distinguish and then transform. Right. Kathleen, thank you for this conversation. I want to go back and listen to it, and I'm really excited about working with you later on in this summer to look at patterns in accompaniment that we will be sharing with everybody. Okay, thank you. Any last words you wish to say?
Play.
Okay, great. All right.
Play.
So
whether it's playing as we play our harp, or play as we make breakfast, or play as we go through our workday. Let's play.
Okay, thank you. I would say go forth and harp on the power of pattern. in your life. And I will see all of you again at the middle of August.